Do you know that there's one farming activity that most farmers are very reluctant to perform, and that farming activity is called fruit thinning. Fruit thinning is removing excess fruit from your fruit trees. Today I've come to thin my apricots out. These apricots are growing almost like grapes. They are in a cluster over here, which means a couple of things for the tree. One, that it can potentially break these branches. Number two is that I'm not going to get the quality and the size that I want from my apricots. Number three is that if I do not come and thin out the fruits, take out the fruits from these clusters, this tree is going to be overburdened with providing all the nutrients to these so many apricots this year, and it will not have enough energy for the bud formation for next year. Now, as with everything in farming, timing is very important. When should you start the thinning process? This is the apricot tree and this is almost the end of April. I have come here now to do the thinning of the apricots. Thinning of fruits generally should be done when they are marble sized or grape sized. And if you notice, these apricots are almost walnut sized. This is not the right time to do the thinning of the apricots because most of the energy has already gone into the production of these walnut sized fruits, which means that the tree has already wasted a lot of energy in the production of these fruits that I am going to remove. Now, the reason that I did not do the thinning of these apricots on this particular terrace when they were marble sized or grape sized was because I did not have the hail nets on, unfortunately. And if I had thinned the apricots, then the hail would have damaged all the apricots on the tree. Now, this is a hail prone area. The hail did come, unfortunately for me, and a lot of the fruits were damaged. But because these were growing like this in a cluster, some of the apricots were saved. Now I simply have to come and remove all the ones that were damaged by the hail. And I can see a lot of damage by the hail, as you can see over here. This is severely damaged. Now the thinning arithmetic for me is slightly different. I simply have to come and take out the apricots which are damaged by the hail. Otherwise, you thin the apricots out by spacing them to about 3 to 5 inches on a branch. Now, if you have an apricot over here, for example, then you remove all the apricots over here between 3 inches and leave one over here and go along the branch like this. But because I have a lot of apricots over here which were damaged by the hail, I am simply going to come and remove all the damaged apricots. Any damaged fruits have to be removed from the tree because if you do not, these are going to be the entry point for diseases. These are going to be the entry points for viruses and pathogens to get in. Now that's something that you want to avoid at all costs in your tree. We have given an open center formation to all our apricot trees, including this one called the Delhi cot. The Delhi cot was a variety which gave us no production whatsoever last year, and this year it is loaded with the apricots on all branches. It's completely loaded, and the thinning process means unloading these apricots, unloading the tree, unburdening the tree from these apricots so that we get good quality apricots, because that's what we look for. We look for a good quality fruit and we want the tree to conserve energy also for next year's production. Now this branch has apricots over here growing as if they were grapes, and if we leave them over here, all of them are going to remain small. They are not going to grow into the size that we're looking for on an apricot, and the tree would deplete all the energy in the production of these very small apricots, which would not give us the value that we're looking for from our apricots. What I'm going to do with this apricot, the Delci cot, which has borne us apricots for the first time in its 3-year-old plantation time on a farm, is that I'm going to calculate the amount of apricots that we're going to take off and the amount that are going to remain. cluster has done for some of the apricots is, because they are in a cluster, some of the apricots which were right in the center were saved from the hail. The ones on the top took all the beating, and the ones in the center were saved, and those are the ones that I'm going to keep on the branch. The ones under the branches were also saved by the hail because they were under the branch and the hail did not get to them. Some of the apricots, by the way, are hanging virtually by the skin of the teeth on the apricot tree because they have been beaten black and blue by the hail. So they have become somewhat loose on the branch, and those are going to drop off anyway. So those are the ones that come off first, the ones damaged by the hail and the ones that are loose on the branch. Now, thinning of the apricots is a little less complicated than the thinning of, say, the pears or the apples, because all that you need to do is twist the apricots. You don't need to use any appliance, you just need to twist the apricot and it comes off easily in the hand. Now, as you can see, it takes more time to thin the fruit out than it takes to harvest the fruit. Thinning because you are calculating, you're looking at the fruit which needs to come out, you're looking at the spacing. Over here, I am looking at the damaged apricots and taking them out. So that takes a bit of a time. And I think I have more apricots thinned out in this basket than I have on this apricot tree. Now that is how it's supposed to be. Though I must tell you that I've been a little bit more conservative in taking out the apricot. I did not want to take out apricots from this apricot tree that were clean and in a cluster. Otherwise I would take out the apricots, I would thin the apricots out according to the spacing recommendation. For apricots it's about 3 to 6 inches almost on a branch. That would have led to me thinning out a lot more apricots than I have thinned out already. Remember, this tree is only, this is a 3-year-old tree. This has borne us fruits for the first year. This year, this is the Delsicot. This gave us a lot of potential this year for harvest, but unfortunately, most of the apricots on the tree were damaged. Most of them I've taken out, some are still there. Most of them have been taken out. These were the severely damaged ones. Now I'm going to count the ones in this basket, and then I'm going to count the apricots that are left hanging on the apricot tree and see what kind of a ratio of apricots do we thin out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I counted almost 309 of these apricots that are thinned out from this 3-year-old tree. Now let's count the apricots that are still hanging on this tree. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So we thinned out 300 plus apricots from this very young apricot tree. 250 plus remain on the tree to flourish, which means that we have taken out more than half the apricots from the tree. Now you can imagine the potential energy that we have saved this tree. This apricot is called the Pliacot. Last year, no harvest, maybe a couple of apricots, that's it. This is somewhat of a late harvest variety which we start picking, say, towards the end of August. And this year we had a bumper harvest, as you can see. Look at them growing in clusters, growing almost like grapes. Unfortunately, again, no hail net, no cover, and all of them are damaged. Thankfully, because we did not do the thinning before, so the ones underneath are somewhat clean, somewhat not damaged, but the upper ones, as you can see, look at these guys, absolutely ruined. This is a complete devastation as far as the apricots are concerned. The ones facing upwards, because all our apricots have an open center formation, which means that they're open to the sun, but they're also open to the hail. And when you are spread out like this, with an open center, all the branches radiating like this, it was almost like, come on, hail, get me. And hail did the worst it could and destroyed all the apricots facing upwards. Unlike the thinning of the apricots, which can be done with your hands, you can just twist the fruit off the branch. The plums, they tend to grow in clusters, and if you try to pull them or twist them, they will not come off. So you'll need to use clippers such as these for plums, pears, and apples. This is the right time to thin out these plums, because the plums are now the size of marbles or grapes, and this is the right time to thin them. As for the peaches, they will have to be spaced a little differently from the apricots. Peaches are almost double the size of the apricot, especially the local peach that is growing on a farm. This is a local peach, and this grows to a size of almost an apple, and this will have to be spaced a little bit more further off than we spaced out the apricots. When you have a pear tree this small and it has started bearing you these fruits, thinning is of prime importance if you want your tree to become slightly bigger, if you want any vegetative growth on your pear tree. So I have got some pears over here. I take this out. I keep only one in a cluster as a sample to see what kind of a variety that I'm getting. This is the first year, by the way, of this carbon pear tree bearing any pears for me. Last year there was nothing at all. Like I said, this is only a 3-year-old tree. This is bearing me pears for the first time, and I need to take out the fruits so that this pear tree can develop into the size that I want from this tree. Along with the thing, what I'm doing is I'm also pruning out branches that I don't need. Some shoots that I'm taking out are also going to deplete the energy of the tree. The tree's energy should go into the production, towards the production of the fruits that I'm interested in, not into these superfluous branches that are emerging. And thinning, of course, is also important for the apples, especially when it's growing on a dwarfing rootstock like this apple tree over here, which is growing on the M9 dwarfing rootstock. And this tree is only a 3-year-old tree, so the focus here is not going to be on fruit production but on the formation of the tree. So we are going to only leave one in a cluster.